Hello everyone! In our last video, we had an introduction to SQL, a programming language that helped us interact and work with database systems. In this video, we will explore the syntax of this programming language. The majority of SQL consists of a couple of commands. Some examples include select, create, insert, where, group by, from, or as. Upper and lower case is ignored for these SQL commands. In the example below, it doesn't matter whether or not we chose to capitalize our commands. Our code will work the same. However, capitalizing is considered to be a better practice in the data science industry as it helps organize your code. Okay, let's begin with data definition language. In order to create tables in SQL, we use a create table statement. We can also use create command to create databases or indexes for our table. In this example, we want to create a table that contains academic information about influential people in the tech industry. After naming our table as students, we can define our columns and specify their data types and constraints if we have any. In SQL, columns can also be called attributes and fields. Likewise, rows can be called records or tuples. Furthermore, column names, types, and constraints are called schemas. SQL data types are integer for whole numbers, real for real numbers, text for strings, char for characters, datetime for a date and time, and blob for arbitrary data like video files. In our example, name and department columns is text. GPA is real because it consists of decimals, age is integer, and gender is char. Lastly, we write down our constraints. There are 4 constraint commands in SQL: check, primary key, not null, and defaults. In this example, the name attribute has a primary key constraint, meaning that it must contain unique values and identifies each record in the table. Furthermore, the GPA attribute must have a value between 0.0 and 4.0, and we can use the check constraint to impose this. Okay, now that we have a table created, how can we add more data into it afterwards? For this, we use the insert into command. We say insert into students, which is the original table, values, and then list all the new data we plan on adding. Make sure that the data you list is in the same format as your original columns in terms of order, data types, and constraints. Up next is SQL's data manipulation language. So the code on the left is the basic format of SQL queries on a single table. Select and from allows us to copy and extract columns from tables. The remaining commands, where, group by, having, and order by, are optional and helps us choose and manipulate our data in different ways. The most fundamental commands in SQL are select and from, which allow us to pull different columns from a database or table. Select asterisk copies out columns in a table. If you want to work with only specific columns in a table, you can list them, just like the second line in the example. Select name and gender from students will pull only the name and gender columns from the students table. Lastly, the distinct command removes duplicate entries while selecting columns. If you want to change the name of a column while selecting, you can use the as command. In the 4th line of the example, the name column will be relabeled to other name. Another way you can manipulate your data during selecting is by using select functions. Select upper converts the columns to uppercase, while lower converts it to lowercase. And then the len function takes the length of all strings in the column during the selection process. Furthermore, aggregate select functions allow you to combine data stored in your columns in a statistic. SQL's aggregate functions are max, min, average, count, and sum. For example, if you wanted to learn the highest GPA among all entries in the table, you would write select max GPA from students, just like in the example. Moving on, we have the where command. This command is similar to NumPy's where function, and you can use this to filter out information while selecting columns. The where command takes in different operators and will select values in a column only if it satisfies the constraint. For example, if we only want to look at people who majored in computer science, we may write the statement in the first line, which would select the rows where department is equal to CS. Lastly, we will be talking about the group by command. This command partitions information into groups with the same group by columns. Group by takes a list of columns and produces an aggregate result per group. When using group by, you must make sure that all columns in select must be either listed in the group by clause or have an aggregate function applied to them. For example, this query produces a table that shows the average age per department. That is because we selected only the department and age columns, and while grouping by department, we aggregated the values in the age column by calculating an average. Okay, we are done with today's lecture video, and this is just a glimpse to the world of SQL. Now you can move on to the lecture notebook to get more practice. Bye bye.